Sebastian Gorka squares off with CNN anchor over school shooters' trans identity. Man, and we see it. The mainstream media try to pretend, try to ignore the fact that the school shooter was a trans. We see a lot of shootings as of late when it comes to trans people with mental health issues and stuff like that. And the mainstream media again is ignoring these clear facts here because they want to protect the LGBTQ community stuff. It's weird to me that they would do this when we see an obvious pattern going on when it comes to these recent school shooters. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to hear what Sebastian Gorka has to say about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Daily Wire, and they report that White House Deputy Assistant Sebastian Gorka got into a heated spat with CNN anchor Breonna Keller on Sunday's broadcast of State of the Union, telling her that he did not trust her network to provide accurate information, and rightfully so. How many things has CNN gotten wrong or outright lied about? Even people on the left don't trust CNN. That tells you how bad it is. The two were discussing the tragic school shooting that took place at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis several days prior, and Keller accused him of missing the bigger picture when he focused on the fact that the shooter was a trans identifying man who from his own reports and stuff, the trans individual had regrets about transitioning in the first place. But that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother thing to discuss. That's a whole different rabbit hole. But let's hear what Gorka has to say about this. Here we go.
When you're looking at the U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center, looking at 172 mass attacks in the U.S. between 2016 and 2020, 96% were non-trans men. So I know you're focusing on this shooter being trans. The shooter was trans, and that is certainly of note. But are you missing the bigger picture here when you zero in on that instead of more broadly these school shooters as an epidemic, and you perhaps miss the through line that connects them all?
Well, no, because your facts obfuscate two things. You are using data based upon the predominant gun violence, which is gang-on-gang violence with zero ideological content. If you remove all of that, the gang violence on the streets of Chicago, LA, Detroit, then you come down to a much smaller data set. So it's like those who say, gun violence in America causes so many deaths, and then fail to note that the majority of the stats they are using refer to also suicides by gun, which of course is not what we are talking about here today. So let's concentrate on mass shootings at schools, specifically Christian or Catholic schools. Then the data set is wholly different. So don't conflate different data sets just to make a political point. There was an ideological content to this attack. That's what terrorism is. It's not because somebody didn't get the drug deal they wanted. It is an ideological message, whether it was anti-Israel, as in this case, whether it targeted President Trump in its rhetoric, as we saw on one of the magazines written by the perpetrator on that YouTube video, or whether we saw the fact that it was anti-Christian and targeting children. That has nothing to do with gang violence. Let's not mix the two things up.
So let's narrow it down then, because by CNN's count, when you look at 32 school shootings since 2020, in which you have 4 or more people who have been killed. So these are the larger school shootings. Only 3 of 32 of those shootings were committed by transgender shooters.
Yeah, forgive me if I don't go with CNN stats, okay? CNN has proven itself to be wholly inaccurate in all kinds of things for the last 10 years, perpetrators of the Russia hoax, and that we didn't have an open border. So please forgive me if I don't take your stats for granted.
All right, it's simple math. 2 of 32
No, it's
shootings.
not. It's distortions. You are distorting the facts. Let me be clear. In just a couple of years, we have seen 7 mass shootings involving people of transgender nature or who are confused in their gender. 7
I saw what
in
you
just
tweeted.
the last couple of years.
I see
that
your
is
list of 7.
inordinately high. So
I see your
please,
list of 7. 2 of them
I'm
are.
going to see.
Sebastian and
I'm going to
Mr.
stick
Gorka.
with the facts and not not CNN's pseudo facts.
We can't stick with your facts because they're not accurate. In fact, in 2 of them, one of the ones you quoted.
Let's talk about CNN's reputation for accuracy.
In one of the ones in which you posted, there was no evidence that he was trans.
Right.
In another, the individual was known within his family by male pronouns and used anti-LGBT
You have an agenda.
rhetoric. No, well, let me ask you this. You've made it clear, and this is not going to change. You think transgender people are the problem here. So what specifically do you think should be done?
No. When did I say that?
All right, you clearly think
When
it's
did I say that,
you
Brianna?
think it's a pattern?
You just created
it.
You just created live fake news. You just did it right in front of the
Gorka,
small
what do you
viewership
think
you
should be
have,
done
okay?
here? You have zeroed in on the fact on
And she called herself a journalist. She interjected and said that obviously you're saying that trans people are the problem. No, he never said that. That is not what he said. He's talking about pattern in school shootings. That's what he was discussing. He never said that trans people was the issue here. You see how they do this. You see how they do it. They do it on every single issue. When you try to sit and you try to explain stuff, and she's supposed to be a journalist. This is what she's doing, cutting him off and claiming that he's like anti-trans is disingenuous. That's not what reporters are supposed to do. You're supposed to ask questions and let the person answer them. Don't make assumptions, broad assumptions like this. Like, she is ridiculous, man. I mean, she is a terrible, terrible person.
and what you see is a problem, what you claim is a problem. What do you want to do about it? What do you want to do about this problem you see?
I have noticed a disturbing. Do you think it's a problem that individuals are targeting little children at Catholic schools? Do you think that's something we should ignore?
Of course, I think that's a problem.
Thank you. So what we should do is we should look at the early warning signals, the signs. One of these shooters at a recent school shooting had 24 interactions with the local law enforcement. Now, that beggars belief. We should be providing off-ramps. We should be providing mental health options for these individuals. I find it hard to believe that an individual goes from getting his mother to sign a change of name certificate, age 17, and then just a handful of years later is mowing down innocent children in a church pew during a Catholic mass, and nobody realized there was a problem. That's what we have to address to save the next children from the next atrocity. It's not about the sexual proclivities of the individual. It's the fact that nobody seems to notice a very disturbing pattern towards violence. You don't wake up one morning saying, I'm going to do a video on YouTube threatening to kill the president, targeting Jews, targeting children. That doesn't happen overnight. Somebody saw that degradation, somebody saw those mental issues and said nothing. That's what we have to prevent. The early warning signals must be addressed if children's lives are to be saved.
And what about all the non-trans school shooters?
Here she go again. Like, he's talking about patterns and saying, like, we need to do something about this. There's a disturbing pattern where 7 transsexuals, trans people came and shot up schools. There's a pattern here. We need to do something about it. And then she talks about, well, what about the non-trans shooters? Like, oh my gosh, man. I can't with CNN. I just can't.
What about all the same thing happens? They have multiple interactions with authorities, with their schools, with the principals. Why is something not being done? Instead of blaming an inanimate object, which is the weapon, how about addressing the human being instead and giving them aid, giving them psychological support, giving them an off-ramp? That's what needs to happen. We need to stop the violence before it occurs.
Facts. All facts, man. I mean, it goes to show how terrible how terrible CNN really is. But Keller contested that as well, claiming that the 7 Gorka mentioned, at least one had used an anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. Gorka went on to say that he was most concerned with how often school shooters are known to law enforcement and whether or not potential red flags and warning signs are being ignored. He's trying to come from a point of trying to figure this stuff out. She's trying to get him cornered and try to make it like he's some anti-trans person. I mean, despicable. I can't stand CNN. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time.